I've been recommended Jameson Black Barrel as a budget Irish whiskey that can be enjoyed neat. So let's check it out. Hey there, I'm Nath Martin, the Whisky Scribe. Taste is subjective, whiskey is diverse, and this channel is all about understanding it well enough to enjoy it on your own terms. So at the end of last year, I did my usual bang for buck whiskies. So that's a recommendation of 5 whiskies that are on the much cheaper end of things, but you can still enjoy them neat. And one of the whiskies I included in that was Bushmills Black Bush, as a great Irish whiskey that's a good bang for buck. And I actually had quite a few commenters telling me that Jameson Black Barrel is another Irish whiskey that's on the cheaper end of things, but you can still enjoy it neat. So I had to test that out. Now, I have already opened this and used it. I did some cocktail videos at the end of last year and made my own homemade Irish cream. I've got videos on that, but I haven't actually tasted this neat. I wanted to save it for doing an actual review video. Now, this is meant to be a step up from Jameson's original. So the Jameson's original is produced at Middleton Distillery. It blends pot still whiskey made from malted and unmalted barley with corn whiskey, so it's an Irish blend. It's triple distilled and aged in ex-bourbon barrels and Oloroso sherry casks. Aged for around 4 years, but there's no age statement. Bottled at 40%. So that produces something that's light, smooth, and quite approachable. For me, it doesn't really have enough character to enjoy drinking neat, but I don't think it's meant for that, especially not at that price point. So it's really meant more for mixing or for cocktails, and maybe on the rocks if you're just looking for something light and easy drinking. But the Black Barrel is meant to be the step up from that. So it includes more pot still whiskey that's meant to give it more body, though it still doesn't include some corn whiskey, so it's still an Irish blend. It's triple distilled, aged in double-charred bourbon barrels that's meant to impart a more intense caramel and vanilla flavour. And there's still some Oloroso sherry casks in there. There's still no age statement, but it's considered to be aged up to 12 years. Also bottled at 40%. The original retails here for $56.95, while Black Barrel is $78.95. So there is a price difference between the two. I was actually quite lucky. I managed to pick this one up about the same price as the original, which is why I grabbed it. So it's got some light legs on there, but there's a little bit of coating on the glass, so that's not too bad. It's not too watered down. I often find blended whiskies, when they've got a fair bit of corn whiskey mixed in with them, they can taste a little bit watered down, but the fact that this has some kind of reasonable legs, they're not super thick, but they're there, it gives me a bit of hope. And the colour, I'd call this sort of more of a gold colour, but on the nose. I do get a bit of a caramelly sort of brown sugar note on the nose, but there is a little bit of a toasted sort of note to it. So it's almost as though you have like spread brown sugar onto a slice of toast. There's something else in there. Yeah, there's just a few different layers of sweetness. Probably a little bit of toffee going on in there, but it's got a lot more on the nose than your standard Jameson's whiskey, so I am kind of hopeful. But on the palate, Sanj. Yeah, that's kind of funny. In terms of texture, it's kind of light in the mouth. It does feel like a little bit light, but there is still quite a bit of flavour there. So you've got that caramel sort of sweetness carries across. It comes across more like toffee or fudge now. Not super sweet, but it's definitely there. Yeah, texture-wise it's quite light, but that sweetness is there. Sort of maybe almost kind of creamy. It's a light whiskey, but there's still enough there that it is drinkable neat. There's a little bit of sort of nuttiness as well. I will say that the finish is quite short. So you've tasted it, you've gotten all those flavors, but sort of like not long after you've swallowed, it's just gone. there's maybe a teeny bit of sweetness lingering around at the back of my palate, but I would still call this a really, really short finish. Yeah, the sweetness hits more towards the back of the palate, and then, like I said, that finish, it just disappears really, really quickly. So my assessment is that yes, this is drinkable neat, but I would call it more of like a session dram. So I wouldn't drink it to unpack it. I wouldn't sort of drink it if I just wanted to have one whiskey and sort of concentrate on it. But if I was having a few drams with some friends, we wanted to catch up and I wanted to focus more on the conversation than the whiskey, but still wanted to have something that was nice, yeah, I would say the Jameson's Black Barrel is actually a bang for buck whiskey that you can drink neat. In terms of what the distillery says about the flavor notes, it's very short because there isn't heaps going on there. So their really, really short description is that on the nose, it's butterscotch, fudge, and creamy toffee. On the palate, it's nutty notes. They say in abundance. They're there, I wouldn't say abundance, but alongside smooth sweetness, bit of spice and vanilla. There's a bit of vanilla, a little bit of spice, not like, we're talking maybe a teeny bit of nutmeg, like really smooth spice, nothing too bold. And then the finish, toasted wood and vanilla. Yeah, for an instance. Like I said, the finish is really, really short. There's not a heap going on there. But then at the same time, even though I said Jameson's Original is the one that's meant for mixing and this is meant to be a more premium offering, the Jameson's website even says that this is made for cocktails, but it's made for your more special cocktails. So Jameson's Original is for whiskey and dry. This is more for your old-fashioned or your Godfather or whiskey sour. And I have to say, look, I did use this in a bunch of whiskey cocktails at the end of last year, and it did go well in those. And it was great as the base for the Irish cream that I made. I would say that this is probably the sort of whiskey that it's safe to have on your shelf, replace it when it runs out, because you can always use it in a cocktail. You can drink it neat if you just really, really need that. But it can be that sacrificial lamb when somebody comes over who's not really a whiskey drinker and you're never sure if they're gonna add Coke to it. You can pour them a glass of this. You're not gonna be upset if they mix it because of the price, but at the same time, you can drink it neat and you're not sort of forcing yourself to get through it. So yeah, I would say that recommendation was a good one. This is a bang for buck whiskey, especially at the price that I managed to get it. So always remember those prices go up and down. Keep an eye out for the specials. Now I am going to be covering Irish whiskies this month, all throughout March, because St. Patrick's Day is in the middle of the month, and I always just treat March as a really good time to concentrate on Irish whiskey. We tend to neglect it most of the time. There's so much focus on Scotch and American whiskey, and these days for me, even Australian whiskey, that Irish whiskey kind of gets left in the background, and many of us even forget that Irish whiskey was the origin of whiskey. No matter how much you prefer whatever it is that you're drinking, Ireland started it. And so I'm going to be doing some more Irish whiskey reviews this month, and I'm also going to be doing a piece on the history of Irish whiskey, sort of the rise and fall and the rise again, ideally, because we're seeing more Irish whiskies pop up on the shelves. So with that in mind, and St. Patrick's Day coming up, what's an Irish whiskey that you're going to be drinking this month? Is it one of your more premium ones? Is it something like your Redbreast? I think the 27 has gotten some really good reviews. Or is it more of a bang for buck Irish whiskey that you're going to have as a Boilermaker with a Guinness or a Kilkenny? But yeah, Irish whiskey is always worth the revisit. We're seeing a lot more good Irish whiskey on the shelves, and I'm always keen to explore them. So no matter what it is, no matter where it's from, enjoy what's in your glass and sláinte.